Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Tony Dudzik, Pick Guardian.
Jared Brandon Wild Pickups.
Hey, it's me, Todd Novak. We are super thrilled that you are listening to our show, the Guitar Knobs podcast. What do we do on the show, Tony?
We talk to builders of boutique amplifiers and guitars and pedals and parts and bits and pieces. The occasional pickup maker, the occasional pick guard maker.
That's you.
Yes.
And,
We're the champion of the boutique builder.
we are the boutique champion.
Yeah.
As they would say
Le
in
boutique
France.
champion.
Le boutique champion.
Who do we have on the line right now?
Brian Nutter with Nutter Guitars in Ashland City, Tennessee.
Woohoo!
Awesome. Nutter Guitars. We ran into this gentleman out at the Los Angeles NAMM, and we've been kind of corresponding up until that moment. But we got to lay our hands on his mighty fine guitars. So we're going to talk about all that good stuff. Brian, we are really happy that you're with us today, like living and everything.
As well as being on the podcast.
Yes. For those who are listening along, not driving, where can they find you right now?
You can find me, the website's nutterguitars.com. You can also find me under Nutter Guitars on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as well. I'm probably the most active on Instagram, though.
Yes.
But I try to sort of farm all the rest of that stuff out to the other social medias.
Yes. Slowly waning.
Yes.
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 Great. So, hey, if you get the opportunity, check out the internet while you're listening and get a good gander at what he's making. They're pretty neato guitars. So
That's a good word.
Yes. That should be a model, the neato.
The Nito.
Yeah, you can have that. I'll just give it to you.
Yeah. No charge. No charge on that one.
No charge. I'm just slinging freebies all over the place. Hey, speaking of freebies, we got a couple announcements. Tony, do you have anything?
I don't, but I will on our next episode.
Excellent. Jared?
Cliffhanger. That's the cliffhanger.
Jared?
No, other than I'm really happy to be back.
Excellent. Yes, we are glad to
We're
have you
glad
back
to
in the
have you
studio.
back.
We missed you, buddy.
Thank you. good to be back.
Your presence is missed. But you're here now, so
Well, it
we're
was
not
missed.
really missing you as much right now.
His present is missed.
It was missed. Yes.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
Glad to be back.
we have some announcements. First of all, I want to bring up there's a note that our pal Liam Martin left for us on the Facebook group. And if you haven't been to the Facebook group, go check it out. He was mentioning, I won't read the entire post, but he basically was recalling that we had an episode featuring David Harris, who sadly passed away last year. But he mentioned that it was really cool hearing his amps on the show. We were at a studio that a good friend of mine runs, and so we had that basically professionally recorded in there. And his question was like, why don't we do that more often? Why don't we have sound clips of all the gear that we're talking about? And there's a couple reasons why. Number one, we don't always have the opportunity to get said gear in-house, especially when we're talking about guitars. That's just, it's a hardship on a boutique builder to say, hey, can you please send me a guitar so I can send it right back?
Or two.
Yeah. None of us are bankrolled enough to buy all this stuff. So that's one main reason. The other reason is that it just takes quite a bit of extra production, which this podcast already takes a lot of production for us to do. And we just simply don't have the bandwidth to do that. The third reason is that, it's kind of a subjective thing. What you're playing, what guitar you're using, and then it becomes a little bit more about what does this sound like. And our show is really focused on talking with the builder about their backstory and finding out what creates their unique fingerprint within the guitar world.
And you always post links to their websites. And most builders these days have their own demonstrations and things on there, or at least links to someone demonstrating their gear.
There are many people demonstrating, and we've had quite a few of them on the show. So if you are interested in something that we've been discussing, any kind of particular gear, there are plenty of ways to go check it out. I encourage you to do so by some of the people that we've had on the show. So yes, that's the answer to your question, Liam. Thank you for posting that. I think in a perfect world, it'd be really great if this was our actual day job and we could do that. That'd be kind of fun. Do it professionally. And
when are
do
we
it
gonna
well.
when are we gonna do the video version?
We will not be doing a video version. And actually, that brings up another real good point. I'm very much considering turning off the YouTube channel because I haven't posted any new ones on there since episode 60, and we're now at 123.
I noticed
24.
that, and I have premium YouTube, so I'm like, where's the episodes?
Yeah, it's because it's actually pretty. It's a pain in the neck to get
to upload all that stuff
uploaded
Yeah.
as MP3s or as videos.
Yep.
I'm probably going to just turn that off because I don't want people to get the wrong impression that we don't have anything going on. I haven't sorted that out yet. Also, people might notice that we no longer have the $1 entry. Those who have entered up to this point with the $1 entry on Patreon, we're obviously honoring that. But moving forward, we're just doing the 5, 10, 20 and upward. It's simply because it was ridiculous how much it costs to ship things. So that's boring business. Sorry, everybody. But, hopefully that.
That's why it's in the announcements section.
Yeah. Hang on real quick. I'm getting a call from Brian Nutter, who's supposed to be on the
show.
Hang on. Oh my gosh, we got a weird call in. We're right in the middle of a podcast with somebody with Brian Nutter in Nashville. And so Nashville
Put him in the
called
microphone.
and oh yeah, you guys are buddies. That's
Too
this is
cool.
hilarious.
You actually worked on the original.
Well, do you guys want to do
The
a
original,
show?
like,
We'll just sit
73
back
Strat.
and You can do it.
I'm just calling in to let you know that I wanted to do it. I don't want to jump on Brian's bandwagon. He's got a lot going on, so I'll let him do your thing, and then I'll do my thing, and then Brian and I will go to lunch and we'll talk about what we'll do together.
That sounds
Excellent.
cool.
Absolutely.
Awesome, man.
Give
Well,
my best to Brian. He's one of my faves, and I'll talk to you guys soon. I was looking at the email and going, man, I gotta give Todd a call. He's just gonna think I'm a flake.
Well, he is a flake.
all right. Well, I'll give you a holler back like maybe tomorrow or something. How about that?
Sounds good, man. Y'all have fun.
All right,
Thanks,
take
brother.
care. Bye.
Later.
Well, that was a
funny.
first.
That was awesome.
That honestly has never happened before.
How
Yes,
am
my
I
dad
butt
is
dialing?
blowing up
I'm
right
not
now.
butt
This is
dialing
crazy.
anybody.
That was really weird.
I know people.
Oh, that was incredible.
It's not me on the phone. I
I
swear.
hope that actually worked out. I think it might have. I'm hoping it did. Anyways, okay. So back to the quick announcements here. We have a new patron, Johnny Knowles, and he gave us his 4 on the floor. So I wanted to share that.
Oh yeah, cool.
His 4 on the floor is the Boss Blues Driver, the Boo Instruments, which I guess is a UK company.
Oh,
I've never
cool.
heard of that.
Well, what is it?
Boo,
Like-
BOO,
Like Ghost
like
Boo?
Boo.
Oh,
Yeah, or like, oh hey boo, I don't know. Is that what they say?
Are you my boo?
It's the boost pedal
Or
from
boo.
and then or oh that was a terrible
Is it a
joke.
boo boo?
Okay, anyways, see Tony always goes one step too
One
far.
step beyond.
The DoD Carcosa Fuzz
Oh.
and a Voxwa.
Voxwa.
Yeah,
Can't go wrong with a Voxwa.
Yeah.
I love
Indeed.
me a Voxwa.
So, Johnny, thanks for sharing that, buddy. And also, he had this. This isn't like the Johnny segment, but it just so happens that this is relevant news. And I wanted to pass this on. I thought this was a pretty cool email he sent. See, when people send me stuff, I read it. But, for the most part,
Except the stuff I send you.
that's true. He says, "Hey, my wife is always." I don't know why I started to sound like
My wife.
John Travolta right there or something. Like,
You
hey,
did.
Hey, my wife is
my
always
Mr. Carter.
yeah. Hey, my wife is always totally bored when I talk about guitar stuff. I have been telling her that I've been listening to the Guitar Knobs podcast, and she went, whatever. The other day, I left my phone in her car, and she automatically, don't ever do that, gentlemen. Don't ever do that.
Big mistake. Get a burner phone.
Boy, oh boy, he must be a good boy. The other day, I left my phone in her car, and it automatically played one of your podcasts, as it should.
Well, yes.
She didn't know how to stop it and had to listen to pretty much the whole thing during her journey. Although she didn't admit liking it, well, that's fair. She said several times to me since hosted today by these knobs. Ha ha ha. Love the show and keep up the good work, Johnny. Well, that was entertaining.
Well, that's
Thank
nice.
you. Thank you for
Email.
sending that, Johnny.
Johnny.
Pretty funny. All right, gentlemen, let's talk about what happened in our guitar worlds this week. Tony Baloney.
Okay. So last time I talked a little bit about putting together this Japanese tattoo Telecaster. It's gone together very well. I'm still tweaking a little bit, but I wanted to bring up, I had an old late 70s, early 80s DiMarzio Sun cover. I think it's a SCHB. Is that what the official designation is? So essentially it's two Strat coils underneath a cover, and it's got the engraved sun on the cover.
Yeah.
And I originally set this thing up with two 500K pots. When I had it all together, I was playing it, and it was super, super bright, and much brighter than I remembered those pickups being. But I guess it kind of does make sense because it's one of the coils is reverse wound, reverse polarity, like a humbucker should be. But because they're two Strat coils, it's just really bright. So I ended up changing the volume pot out for a 250K instead of the 5, and that helped a little bit. But it's still a really bright pickup, and I think part of it is the body is made of pine, which generally is brighter anyhow.
My pine.
But I just thought it was kind of interesting. This was a pickup that I stuck on a shelf probably 15 or 20 years ago, and I was just waiting for the right project, and it just works out really well on this one. But I just thought I'd bring that up. It's just trials and tribulations of putting bits and pieces together.
Yeah.
I really like the old 70s DiMarzio stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big fan altogether. However, that era is a great. If anybody finds some of that old DiMarzio stuff laying around, if you're an older guy and you've got a drawer full of it, hang on to it because people are paying good money for that old DiMarzio stuff.
Yeah, and allegedly the sun cover ones were wound by Larry DiMarzio himself. So
In his Volkswagen bus.
Back when he had an afro, probably.
it's quite possible.
All right.
So that's so I'm just tweaking that thing a little bit more and moving on to the next project after that.
Excellent. Brian, let's hear from you.
Oh man, my guitar world this week has been very typical. Making sawdust and huffing lacquer. Everything from cutting out bodies. I am actually working on two separate custom orders right now that are outside of my Astro model. One is a replication of a guitar that I did for Keith Urban about 3 years ago, and it's a double neck. One side is 6-string electric, the other side is 6-string electric banjo. I call it the Monster. So I've been working on the body for that and getting all that ready for paint tomorrow, as well as another kind of it's sort of Explorer meets.
Well, hang on. Don't give away too much about your guitars there, buddy. We're going to get into this.
Well, but this one you don't get to see very much of. Okay. It's called the Navigator. So it's sort of Explorer meets Firebird, but it's it's going to have a matte black finish, Kaler, all of stuff that I don't normally do. So that's my week this week.
Awesome.
Nice.
All right, man. So last week, everybody knows I was on vacation out of the country. However, my eyes were glued to the phone. And what I told my wife is the train is just going to keep rolling as far as what I'm doing. So I was still engaged in my business and getting orders and talking to people and whatnot, because I just didn't want to come back to a big pile of stuff. And one of those things were trying to figure out what kind of unit I'm going to use while I've got a booth at NAMM. And so I figured I would probably give this Universal Audio aux amp top box a try. And what that does is it's basically an attenuator, and you can plug in your amp into this and then have an out in the back and plug in, back into your speakers. And you can turn all that down, but yet your amp is turned up and you get the effect out of the speakers of, the speakers breaking up and all that kind of thing, I think, right?
Yes.
And so your speakers aren't blowing your ears out because it's actually a lot quieter, but you're getting the benefit of having an amp turned up.
Yeah.
What amp are you thinking about taking down there that might require this?
I'm thinking of maybe a couple. I'm thinking about taking an orange with, the 212 cab that I have, and maybe take the Plexi clone as well, just so people have a choice. And Zach with Mythos was actually, I think he was going to loan me an amp or a unit too, and as well as my buddy Andy Harrison. Was going to loan me a few smaller amps, but I'm kind of just paranoid about the volume setting there.
Yeah,
because you can't be too loud there. So
no, they do police that pretty strongly.
I want to talk a little more about this top box though. The way it came, the unit's about 14 inches long, but it came in this huge box, and it's about the size of a filing cabinet drawer, and it is so well packed. You open the box, and it has a box just for the instructions and the two little. I mean, it was put together really well. I mean, it's just a fantastic unit. Really expensive too, but it's worth it. I haven't dug into what it all can do, but I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. I don't know that you need to bring too many amps to this. I mean, I think you want to showcase your pickups, not the amps.
Yeah, but when people see how serious you are about how you're demoing your stuff.
How about you, Todd? What's going on in your musical work?
Well, part of the music extension was I was editing some videos from our last show for the Valentinos. Check it out on Instagram at Hey Valentinos. Instead of just going like, oh, here's a iPhone, of what we did. I'm fortunate enough to have access to a couple people that handy with the video camera, and they went around and got some great footage, and then I went and edited it, and I was really excited to do that. So that's an extension of what I was doing, and part of that was that I had a Zoom mic which is like a handheld, mic that you can record music and concerts and everything with. It's an ambient mic. You don't plug it into anything. It just records the room essentially. You can plug in 2 direct mics to it. They're pretty affordable, and I just had it out at the booth, and it did a pretty decent job with the room. It got a little boomy. But I think that's just a positioning that I had to deal with. So part of the music part of this was I had to, make it sound better. So master it a bit in Logic, and then make the little videos. So that was kind of fun. And it wasn't a direct guitar gear per se, but it had to do with my guitar music. So there you have it, peoples. Let's get into some 1, 2, 3, 4 on the floor. All right, Brian, give us your 4 on the floor.
My 4 on the floor is probably going to be pretty boring to most people, but growing up, when I did, pedals, you have to understand, were considered toys because everyone wanted the rack gear.
Right.
But the only stuff that was like, the stuff that you were using pedal-wise was directly affecting the way your amplifier reacted.
And just real quick, Brian, before you get in way deep on this, I'm sure that there's a few people out there that are going, I don't know what rack gear is.
Right.
Describe rack gear just a little bit.
Okay, so way back in the prehistoric times, there were these big 19-inch wide pieces of gear that we would slide into these huge cases. 80s. Yes, and they did a variety of things. Be it reverbs or delays or modulation or what have you. So that was considered the pro gear. And pedals were. I once heard a guy refer to his little Boss plastic pedal board thing as action figures, like the old Star Wars things. For me, my first pedal would actually be a Dynacomp. Anything like a Dynacomp circuit, Ross, covers a bunch of things. And the reason for that is touring as long as I did and having to do fly dates and TV shows or whatever, you never really knew what was going to show up. I had my writer that told me, what pedals were going to show up or what amps were going to show up. I always wanted a JCM 800 Marshall, but sometimes I got a twin. And
that's different.
Yeah, I mean, particularly if you're doing a festival in Butt Sniff, Idaho somewhere, because nobody.
I've been to that town.
Yeah, oh, dude,
aptly named.
Yeah. What about Intercourse, Pennsylvania?
So you show up with that, and you're used to a Marshall, which, by the way, I mean, I have the schematic for my 1983 JCM 800 Marshall tattooed on my left arm.
Sweet.
So
Nice.
I'm very, very serious about the way that sounds. So the compressor I don't use as a smasher so much, unless I'm doing like a hardcore old country gig. But I use the compressor much more like a boost, just to drive the front end a little harder and maybe squish it a little.
Mm-hmm.
It can also be used to add just a little bit more gain. So that's the reason for the compressor. And it doesn't need a tone control. It doesn't need to be like all fancy schmancy. I just needed something. All of the pedals that I'm going to talk about, I wanted to be able to buy them in any store, anywhere, if it died.
That's a common theme with touring musicians. Yes.
So that was that's the biggest reason for the Dynacomp. And man, it's a cool sounding little box. It does a neat thing. And the Ross circuit, if you guys know anything about pedals, you can actually build a Ross compressor on the circuit board for a Dynacomp. It's the same thing.
Interesting. What do you have for number 2?
Pedal number 2 would be any kind of tube screamer derivative. We'll go with a TS9. And the TS9 is what everyone would use it for. I don't use it for like drive, like into a clean amp. I would use the tube screamer in front of something that's already overdriving.
Right.
The tube screamer by itself, if it's in front of something that's already clean, it's a horrible sound. It's that mixture of like fuzzy, clippy sound and the clean signal as well. And I have never seen a reason for that. There was a manufacturer who probably still makes this. I'm not going to name them, but it has an actual control where you can turn your clean level up. Why do I need that in my overdrive? I don't. So whenever I use the tube screamer, it's in front of usually the Marshall or something like that. Something that's already really pushing a lot of air and is starting to grind.
So you use it to push it over the edge.
Absolutely.
I do the same thing.
Yeah. But the tube screamer also, I mean, and it could be any of those. It could be a super overdrive. It could be a full drive. It could be a Nobles. And when I say tube screamer, I mean like all the way down to the sound tank up to whatever version's out right now. As long as it's that asymmetrical clipping in the first section of the first stage of the op amp kind of overdrive stuff.
Right.
That's what matters.
All right. Dig it. Well, that certainly isn't the first time a tube screamer's made it onto the 4 on the floor. And it won't be the last. What do you have for number 3?
Number 3 would be a mid to high gainy box. This box would be used only if I got a clean amp.
Can you be specific?
I will be specific. So I would probably pick a Boss Blues Driver.
Oh, interesting.
The Blues Driver plays well with other overdrives. So if I'm using in conjunction with the blue, and I would use the Blues Driver as like the main sort of crunch rhythm sound into a clean amp. I wouldn't use it in front of an already like hot rodded Marshall. So the with the Blues Driver on, I can now sort of like bump up its sort of pick responsiveness and maybe a little bit more gain with either the compressor or push it into like shredland with the tube screamer by stacking any and all of that stuff up. I wouldn't turn all three on at the same time because then that turns into just a mess. But it would either. But again, being on the road, it was like whatever I could get my hands on. So substitutions for that would have been, anything from like a Sir Riot or a full tone OCD.
Mm-hmm.
In a perfect world, a BK Butler tube driver. But the BD2, you can buy it everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. Utilitarian at heart, I see.
Oh, wait till the next one.
All right, give us number 4.
Can't be a tuner.
No, it's not going to be a tuner. It's actually going to be more useful than a tuner. So the last one would be the Boss GE7.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay.
The GE7 is really, really overlooked because it's great for a lot of stuff. It's a tremendous boost pedal. If you set everything at
Flat.
0 and then crank the output level all the way up, it's really killer. That's
Where
an
do
old
you
school.
use that?
What's that?
I mean, in your chain, where do you like to use that?
Basically, the way I'm laying these out in order would be the chain.
Okay.
So it would be compressor first, tube screamer, blues driver, GE7.
All right.
With this pedal complement, I can create the desired like rhythm, clean, and lead tones that I need. All the other stuff, like modulation and time-based stuff, is just grease at that point.
Mm-hmm.
All I'm looking for is like, just core tone. Right. So the GE7, it can be used as a boost into it, again, an already overdriven amp. So it will put it into much heavier overdrive. It can be used for correctional things. Mm-hmm. If the amp is a little too bright and with the blues driver, and the tone control in the blues driver is not really doing anything for it, well, then I can pull down some of the high end.
Mm-hmm.
You can also use it as that sort of like cocked wah sort of sound. You can, in conjunction with the tube screamer and the blues driver, you can get to like much more like thrash metal-y sounds by setting the EQ curve into a V or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the 4, and that's why I say it's always the most boring, because you can buy them anywhere, but everyone's always thinking about making strange noises or different fuzzes and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff it's a special effect. I'm always concerned really with like the core central of sound that I'm going to be making first. Everything else is additive.
Now, we've had a couple of the GE7s, which for those, we haven't specifically named it, but that's a graphic equalizer. So that, for anyone who's wondering what a GE7 is, that is the Boss equalizer pedal. And it's a 5-band equalizer. Correct. Seven.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thus the 7. I'm an idiot. Sorry.
Yeah, they phased out the GE5 a long time ago.
I'm so good.
There was actually a GE6 prior.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it had a level control.
Yeah.
One thing when Rob Chafe was here, that was kind of an interesting thing he suggested, or at least suggested experimenting with putting a graphic EQ in the effects loop.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That gives it a little more tonality. I imagine much more like a Mesa Boogie, like they had the
totally
graphic EQs on them.
Too true. True. Now, one of the things that has come up when those have been mentioned is actually we had one on the last. There was a guest 4 on the floor, and they mentioned that they had it modded, and our friends at Alchemy Audio out in Chicago, Johnny.
Hey, Johnny.
Johnny. They do a noise mod on the EQ to reduce it, because it can be just extra noise.
Sure.
Have you encountered anything like that? Does that bother you? Do you like it?
It doesn't bug me because if I'm using the GE7, I'm putting it before a volume pedal. So I will just roll the volume back. But I mean, any of those pedals can be improved as far as, noise levels go due to the quality of the caps that they put in them. So if you put higher quality caps throughout an EQ pedal, absolutely, that sort of like hissing and noise floor goes way down.
Right. Well, cool, man. That is a tidy.
That's a working man's.
It's a working man's.
Yeah.
4 on the floor.
I'm worried about playing songs, not jumping all over the place.
Yes.
But can you get that in a rack mount?
Yeah.
You can. Absolutely, you can.
Excellent. Well, speaking of making music and playing songs, you make guitars out in Nashville or Nashville area, I should say.
Yeah.
And where is you're specifically?
I'm in Ashland City. I'm about 30 miles northwest of Nashville.
Okay. So is that getting the encroachment from the crowds yet?
No, we're actually kind of the last undiscovered quadrant of Nashville, if you will.
All right.
65 kind of divides Nashville north and south. 40 divides it east and west. So we sort of fall in that, like, if you look at it like a clock, like 9 to noon area, that's the one spot that hasn't been overdeveloped. And
yet.
It's coming, but
I'm going to bring my soap manufacturing company out there.
Come on. I live in the sticks. Believe me, some of my neighbors could probably use it.
Oh, geez. So let's just say you make a pretty interesting looking guitar, and
that's the idea.
Yeah, it's way fun. And to paint a picture of what we stumbled upon when we met Brian, there was a sharply clad man in a suit and a crazy looking Jetson style rad guitar and a big coif of hair and some funky glasses and a big toothy grin, and I'm like, yeah, it's like he's like space age Buddy Holly right here. This is pretty cool. And I appreciate it. There's like some personality in it, and so we're going to get into all of how you came about the guitars that you are making right now and why. I will mention that aside from them, it's probably. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's probably one of those things where you're like, yeah, they're crazy looking. But did you know they're actually really great builds? Like, at some point in time, I'm sure I don't care what they look like. These are awesomely built guitars. Why can't you people realize that?
Well, no, you get some of that. It's like, well, it doesn't look like a Telecaster. Well, no, it doesn't look like a Telecaster. Fender makes those.
Yeah.
The world doesn't need a Telecaster from me.
Yeah.
And whenever I explain to everyone, they're just like, well, so who's doing all the paint work? Well, I am.
Yeah.
Well, who's doing the CNC stuff? Well, there's no CNC stuff, and I do all the necks and all the woodworking by hand. Oh, well, who's making your pickups? Well, I am on the winder that I built.
Wow.
So, and then everyone goes, oh,
yeah. Excellent. Well, we're gonna get into all of that, but I think we need to understand a little bit from whence this all came. I always like to find out, like what's the background, what drives somebody into this sort of thing, because most people
Lunacy.
don't just to see exactly. So there's something, some closet back there must be opened right now. Where'd you get the bug? How'd you get the guitar bug?
Oh God. From the time I was born, my dad played a pedal steel in a country band. And I grew up actually in West Virginia, about 100 miles southeast of you guys. If you follow 33 through Lancaster and Athens and all that stuff, you run right into my hometown.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. It's beautiful down there.
West Virginia is a fantastic place to grow up, and it's an even better place to leave. So Dad played pedal steel in this country band, so I was always around guitar players and just musicians in general. and this would have been, the early and mid 70s. So I was exposed to a lot of cool stuff, both country wise and Southern rock. Southern rock was probably the closest thing I got to like real rock and roll, like Blackfoot, Molly Hatchet, of course, Leonard Skinner, the Eagles, that kind of stuff.
Don't forget 38 Special.
Straight up. Yeah. I mean, so I find Joe Walsh pretty early as a kid, and didn't even realize who Joe Walsh was. I could truly identify that guy every time I heard him play. And then didn't start really playing until I was about 12, when I heard Blizzard of Oz for the first time.
Yes.
And that freaked me out because I'd been around electric guitars all my life at that point, up to 12 years, but not a single one has ever made that noise before. It was the most terrifying, sinister, just incredibly exciting sound I'd ever heard. And it was like, okay, if that, and I see photos of this guy and he's playing a Les Paul, just like the guy in my dad's band was playing a Les Paul custom. So how did he make his sound like that? So, of course I dive truly headlong into the heavy metal of the time and learning how to play, and eventually I became like straight up disciple of guys like Paul Gilbert and Malmsteen and George Lynch and that kind of thing. By the time I'm 17, I'm wanting to hot rod stuff and mod things, and I'm getting Stu Mac catalogs and reading all of the
trade
the
secrets,
electronic stuff from like Mike Lingslold and all just all of that stuff. Just get an iron and start swapping out pickups and whatever. Then I buy parts from Stu Mac, bodies and necks, and start sticking stuff together. And by the time I go to college for a little while for music education at WVU, and I realize about halfway in that, if I just go play sessions, I would make like 3 or 4 times the money I'm going to make as a teacher. So I'm going to do that. So I moved to Los Angeles, and I bought this creeper van from West Virginia Paving and stuffed everything that I owned into it and drove to California. I still drive a creeper van, by the way. I affectionately refer to this one as Creeper 3 because it's the third one. But so I get out to LA, and I'm working at like West LA Music and doing I smelled a very small stint at Guitar Center in Hollywood. My employee number is 004793. You will never forget it if you've ever worked there. So, and during that time at West LA Music, I started playing sessions, but I also met Tom Anderson and Don Grosh. And it was Don Grosh, who still has a very successful guitar company out in Colorado, who's since moved out there. I was like, dude, I was just fascinated by guys that made guitars, and told Don, I was like, man, I got to come by the factory sometime. He goes, factory? We built these in my mom's garage.
Oh, wow.
And it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was like, oh, people make these, not factories. Like, guys make these.
Mm-hmm.
So then from there on in, I made buddies with Don, and then just started like buying every book that I could and getting deeper and deeper into the whole thing. And by the time I moved to Nashville in like 2000, I actually meant to be, I wanted to be a guitar maker in Nashville, but I got here and no one wanted to buy anything from me because nobody knew me, or, so, I need to eat.
Right.
And I got a guitar tech gig through friends, because there was piles of friends from West Virginia.
I swear, I thought you were going to say you became a male prostitute, and I was just like, oh boy.
Ron Garvin.
What's wrong with that?
Excuse me, I got to move this truss.
Exactly.
Okay.
With your white creeper van.
I'm going to make a small adjustment. I get this guitar tech gig for, at that point, a new up-and-coming solo artist named Keith Urban.
Ah.
So I go out.
I think I've heard of him before.
Who's that guy?
Well, the bass player in Keith's, not at that time, but in Keith's previous band called The Ranch, his name's Jerry Flowers. well, Jerry and I are from the same area in West Virginia. We have all the same friends and all the, musician friends and whatever. So I meet Keith and I tech for him for like 6 months, and I get to looking around and I'm like, it would just be easier if I played. So I started getting playing gigs, and from there, my playing career kind of took off and got in the way of my building career. So I played with like Lone Star and went on to play with Taylor Swift. I went back to Keith's band for about 8 or 9 years, and then played with Dierks Bentley and Michael Tate and Toby Mac of DC Talk, Rachel Lampa. Just did a bunch of stuff playing wise. 2014, I stopped touring with Keith. My wife and I did a record in an acoustic tour all over the United States. We played like 180 gigs doing just house concerts.
Wow.
So basically playing in people's living rooms. And it was on that tour that we found out that she was pregnant with my daughter.
Ooh.
So that's what happens when you leave every gig with a hot girl.
Right.
So
There it is.
and then whenever she was born, I was like, look, I'm not going back on the road. That's just not happening.
Right.
And so I told my wife, look, I'm going to retool. I'm going to retool up and I'm going to do guitars again. So if you want me to make something for you, tell me now. She goes, okay, I want a rocking chair. So I built her a rocking chair. And then since late 2014, I've been making guitars headlong. And as of like October of this last year, I teach 2 days a week at Musicians Institute Guitarcraft Academy here in Nashville.
Oh, wow.
That's
Right
really
on.
cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I failed to mention, aside from being a sharply dressed chap, holy moly, man, you can play.
Oh,
To the point, like, he's like, yeah, check out my guitar that, I've been wanting you guys to check this out. And his fingers start flying, turn into spaghetti. And he's like, here, try it. And I was like, I'm good.
The Nashville chicken picking.
thank you for that.
I'm all filled up with that right now. Thanks.
Actually, most of Nam was thankful that you didn't do that.
anything, but
Yeah, I still do a handful of sessions a month. I don't do any live gigs anymore. I'm kind of disenchanted with the whole thing.
Is
So,
there much of a music scene in Nashville?
a little?
yeah.
You have to look.
Yeah, I
Right.
figured.
And truthfully, in all seriousness, you do have to look for the good stuff
Yeah.
because it's
That's totally
just like
fair.
anywhere else. It's super easy to go down to Broadway and hear somebody doing like Luke Bryan covers all day long.
Mhm.
But if you really want to see like the great stuff, and it's out there. I mean, it's nothing to go to the 5 spot and see like Tom Peterson with Cheap Trick playing with his daughter, or you can see Audley Freed and Reeve Gabrels doing a gig back and forth with each other. So to hear a guy that plays just like Jimmy Page and Reeves who plays like Reeves, that's the only way I can really explain it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can see some tremendous stuff.
Yeah. Let's get into all the different styles and shapes and everything. And how did you land where you landed?
My favorite guitar in the whole world is probably a Gibson Explorer. I was always just fascinated by it because it looked sort of retro spacey. And then whenever the older I got and I discovered, this was designed in 1958, that blew my mind.
Yeah.
That Gibson, like Ted McCarty, was so forward thinking that he would put this thing out in 1958.
Yeah.
Because that had to look just like
Bonkers.
the most alien thing that anyone's ever seen in the whole world.
totally.
Jared and I
The Les Paul was strange to people at that
We had
point.
matching Explorers, Todd and I did.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
white on white matching Explorers
right.
with matching pink cases.
That's what I'm saying.
Do you
Yeah.
think those should be slung down low when you play them?
That's the cool part about the Explorers because there's so little real estate over the pickups. It looks cool, like jacked up under your chin, or like banging off of your knees.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Awesome.
And they're comfortable guitars.
They're really.
my
I mean,
God.
your arm can just rest right on that upper cut, and it
It's
feels
a
great.
perfectly designed angle. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aside from just the way it looks, it's a really well balanced and really well designed thing. Unlike the Flying V,
Right.
which is also equally cool, but it doesn't do the same thing.
Definitely not.
Very easy
Try
to play
to find
sitting
another
down.
guitar where the strap connects basically right beside the 21st fret and it's well balanced. The
Right.
only reason it is because of all of that lumber that's on the back side of it to like keep it from being neck heavy.
Yeah. Yeah. But they
But
sure
so
are cool looking guitars.
Oh my God.
Boy.
I love the Explorer, and I'm also, I love the Fender stuff as well. So I had this out in my shop one day. I just had this big piece of MDF, and I drew one long center line.
You explain what MDF is real quick.
MDF is it's
Mason
fiberboard.
Yeah, fiberboard. It's like
Is all it
compressed.
is. And I use it for making jigs and fixtures and that kind of thing, that will enable me to like replicate my shapes or pick up routes or
Sure.
that kind of thing. So I had this big piece of MDF, and I draw one long line, like right on it, and I start drawing stuff on it.
Mhm.
And you're trying to come up with a design, and it's all swoopy like everything else. And then it hit me. It was like, everything looks like that. Everything's really curvy and kind of sexy or whatever. But what if it was all straight lines? And let's see what we can do with that. And I started just like making these angles and then I incorporated a few familiar things. Like on the upper bout where the arm rests on the Astro model, it's very similar to a Strat. There's a belly cut, there's an arm cut, and it feels kind of like home, but it looks way, way different.
Yeah.
So then I thought, okay, so that looks kind of cool. That fits your like your need for like that retro futuristic thing. And because, for me, man, guitar is fun. That's all it is. The guitar should be fun. It shouldn't be pretentious. It shouldn't be like all cork sniffery and having a subscription to Guitar Aficionado.
Right.
That just, oh my God, I can't stand that stuff.
That's
The
me.
guitar is fun. Is it mean? Well, whatever. I'm not the warmest, fuzziest guy in the whole world. But you have if you ask any guitar player, why did you start playing? And he starts off with, well, I was directly influenced by Led Zeppelin and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you wanted to get chicks. That's why you started playing the guitar, because it's cool and it's fun. That's why you started playing the guitar.
It's
So
dangerous.
the guitar should be fun. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, I got this cool, fun shape. Now what do I do with it? And then I thought, I throw everything at it I can think of.
Uh-huh.
So the next thing I know, I've got all these switches and additional pickups, and hey, to look cool with a kind of a Bigsby thing on it. All right, cool. Can the pots push pull? Sure, they can. And ta-da!
Right.
What if we shoot it with glitter? Right on. Go.
Now you're talking my language.
Yeah.
Oh man, metal flake paint jobs are my favorite thing in the whole world.
Yep.
Well, it's kind of interesting because I'm reminded that, there is a direct correlation. I think, we've talked about this several times between the automobile, early automobile worlds and guitar
Totally.
stuff. And, the difference between something being pretty straightforward and streamlined, like an early, Porsche 356 or something where everything is like only exactly what that was supposed to be, versus like a Galaxy, something like that. It's it's everything. And there's like, yeah, let's just make this gonzo. And yours is kind of a gonzo guitar. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it was, the other thing was like from touring as much as I did with, like when I toured with Keith, I always had about a dozen instruments on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And it was for not only sound reasons, but for tuning reasons. It'd be like multiple tunings or capo positions or whatever. So anywhere I could find to keep the same guitar on for 2 songs or more, I wanted that. So in order to, like now whenever I go do sessions, instead of taking my typical complement of like, you know, my old Telly and Strat and Les Paul, my Gretsch and all that kind of stuff with me, now I take 2 of these. I take two of the Astros with me. One's tuned down a half step. And now, you know, because most producers hear with their eyes, you know, they think, oh, we need to have a telly. If you don't pull out a telly,
Right.
then it's wrong. But now they know me well enough, or in, you know, and now not only as a player but as a builder, that whenever they say telly, and I flick a couple switches, and they go, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
There it is.
let's go with that.
Your guitars actually are, I think, closely remind me of Frank Daimel's guitars out in Germany, who also has a
Absolutely
crazy amount of switches and doohickeys and goodies, and he embraces
does
the fun
some
aspect too.
seriously cool stuff.
Yeah.
His finishes are really, really hip.
I understand you wind your own pickups, and me as
I
a
do
pickup
indeed.
winder that does it full time, and I do sell to a lot of different guitar builders, resellers, or customers, or what have you. I wanted to say I find it very, very cool when a guitar builder builds his own pickups, and so I wanted to ask you with that. Just briefly, how did you build your winder? Like, what kind of motor did you use? I mean, just real briefly, what made you make that decision to do them yourself? Was it a cost thing? Was it a inspiration thing?
Well, you know as well as I do now that it's certainly not a cost and time thing.
Right. Yeah.
Because making pickups is the best way I can ever explain making pickups is fiddly, because it takes a while, and I've got to sit there with my optimizer on. I feel like Dan Early one every time I do it. And I'm but the reason for making the pickups is I always felt like I would have more control, not only over the way the guitar sounded, but the way the guitar looked. Like aesthetically, I wanted the pickups to look a little different than everyone else's.
Yeah.
The same way I want the guitar to look a little different. I don't necessarily just want to drop in a double cream like dual sound from DiMarzio.
Sure.
But so I thought long and hard about the way I wanted to make the pickups. I knew the way I wanted them to make them sound, and I considered doing truly like proprietary looking things. But then just knowing the way I am as a player and the way most guys are, at some point somebody's going to want to swap out something, and they don't need to have to mess with. They'll be like, oh my god, well, this thing's got these pickups in it, I can never change them out. So I chose to go with a humbucker platform, and I also do like a P90 style as well as Strat style.
The bread and butter
inside that humbucker form.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. I just wanted to point that out and compliment you on that.
Thank you. Now the winder, whenever I first thought, hey, I can probably make pickups too. This has been 25 years ago. I bought that Jason Lawler book.
Right. Yeah.
And I made that winder. So I'm using. It's like, it is so Beverly Hillbillies looking. It's like it's very, very low tech. It's a sewing machine motor with there's a motor from an oscillating fan that I got from Family Dollar.
Yes.
and there's a little cam on that, and that's what pushes the rod to guide the wire
Right.
inside the bottle.
Traverse. Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, that's really interesting. And when you look at that kind of ornate thing that people build on their own, you don't see it anywhere else. To me, that I admire that about people that can build their own machine.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You know, I think one of the reasons I had to just verify it, because I remember when I first saw your guitar, it was like there was something as unique as that is. There was something I was like, wait a minute, this feels like something that I already like, and I couldn't put my finger on it, and I literally didn't put my finger on it until just now. It's the Electra Outlaw bass.
Really?
And if you have the opportunity, look up the Electric Outlaw bass, and yours is definitely different. But there is the first time I ever saw one of those, I was like, I don't play bass, but damn, I want that guitar. It's so cool looking. Yeah. So it's just, I think that they kind of said, let's do something maybe a little bit different. I don't know how well that went back then. I think this is 70s, late 70s.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So anyways, I had a question specifically as a boutique builder. How are you handling your fretboards?
Fretboards are all done, by me. I'm doing.
Let me be specific. I meant like material wise.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm using Palfaro because of the whole CITES thing. And Palfaro actually carries 3 different names depending upon who you're talking to. Guitar players know it as Palfaro. If you want to make it sound fancier, you can call it Bolivian Rosewood, which I have done.
Okay.
But lumber suppliers usually will refer to it as Murado.
Ooh, I don't like that name.
Now, technically,
Murado.
It is not for the CITES thing. And what I'm talking about there's it's spelled CITES, and I think it's an acronym for something.
Right.
But it's a governing body basically looking out for endangered wood species.
Right.
In the entire the scientific name Dalbergia line is rosewoods, all rosewoods. Murado or Palfaro is technically not a Dalbergia. It's I forget the other scientific name for that, but that's how it sort of falls outside of that. So if I was going to ship this guitar anywhere in the world, then customs is not going to give me a hard time about, well, you're violating blah blah blah.
Right.
But at the same time, aesthetically, it's brown wood. It looks kind of like East Indian rosewood.
Mm-hmm.
It comes in, color wise, it can be darker brown. Sometimes it's much lighter. The stuff that Fender gets is usually much lighter colored. But the stuff I've been getting lately is really, really dark.
Interesting. Cool. And I know that one of the other neat things I like about what you're doing is you're splitting the dots on the neck, which I appreciate.
and man, thank you.
Yeah.
I did the dots like that, and then I put the first few of them out, and then I saw that my buddy Doug Cower has the dot configuration like that on his Titans.
Mm.
And I was so mad. I was like, no. and then it hit me. It was like, well, how many guys make make necks with the dots like right down the middle and split at the 12th fret?
Yeah.
So,
and he's not the only one doing that either. So,
well, it totally. And,
yeah.
I buy Doug beer whenever I see him.
Yeah. And so for those who don't know what I'm talking about, splitting the dots, essentially what we're talking about is, if you are looking down at your guitar, the first 9, I believe, are not in the center of your fretboard, but they're closer to the low E string. So they're closer to you, which is great if you are having a hard time seeing things.
Totally.
And then the from 12 on, those are on the high E side of things. And it's aesthetically, it's a little different, but I think it's cool. I've got a couple marks on my guitars where I can see things better.
Magic marker.
Yeah.
Dude, I've used those glow in the dark side dots before.
Uh-huh.
You can't see them that well either way,
Mhm.
really. I mean, they work kind of okay, in normal light, and they work kind of okay as long as they're charged up in dim light. But I don't know.
Well, hey,
it varies.
Paul Simonon of The Clash, amen to them.
Mhm.
He literally had the notes written on the top, behind, at the top sort of rolling arch of the neck. So where your thumb sits, were actually written on there because he didn't know how to play bass.
That's fantastic.
Isn't that great?
I did not know
I
that.
like that.
Now, I've seen lots of guys use whiteout over the side dots.
Oh yeah, I guess I would.
Yeah, that's a good idea. There's all kinds of ways, and you know what? You just got to make it work. You got to make it work. That's it.
You got a show to do. What are you going to
That's
do?
right.
You got to know what note to play.
That's right.
Exactly.
And the lighting guy, that dude is your friend or your enemy.
Yes, indeed.
So what we talked a little about fretboards and things. What other types of wood? I mean, what's your preferred neck wood, body wood?
The Astros are done with maple necks and alder bodies, because generally, whenever I'm painting the guitars, it's almost always in an opaque color.
Okay.
Be it metallic or true like bass boat style metal flake.
Mhm.
And I like alder because you don't have to pour fill it. It's not a porous wood, so I don't have to do an additional step like I would have to do with like ash or mahogany and trying to grain fill that stuff. So the alder works out really, really great, and it's plentiful. It's easy to get my hands on. I can get really good stuff. I can also get light stuff, which isn't always the case with ash or with mahogany. Most people associate mahogany with like Honduran mahogany. Well, Honduran mahogany is really, really expensive. African mahogany is really plentiful, but it's very dense and it's really, really heavy. As with ash, people think swamp ash is an actual, version of ash. Well, it's not. It's not its own tree. It's still white ash that grew in a wetter area, which is what makes it lighter. So then, good Lord, don't even get me started on the thing that every guitar player asks me now. The very first question. It's not how does it play, how does it sound. It's what's it weigh?
Yeah, I'm guilty of asking that a lot.
Dear Lord. Yeah. Are your shoes too tight, sweetheart? I mean, come on.
I know.
Somewhere between 5 and 20 pounds.
Yes.
Totally.
You're right. You're right.
A total side note, you just said the pour had the pour with the thing. This is classic non-professional guitar knobs, Todd. But I thought, wow, what a great name for like a Mexican food bar, and it would just be called Por Favor, but it'd be POUR.
Come on.
Like a pour me a favor,
That's what I'm talking about.
Think about it. Hey, somebody's going like, dude, he's on something there.
That's another freebie right there. It is.
There's the new chain sweeping the nation.
You know it. It's going to happen, and I won't get a dime. All right.
What else is new?
Yeah. Okay. Quick, crazy lightning round. You mentioned metal flake. What's your very favorite metal flake color?
Oh, wow. I would say it would have to be. Oh my God! I can't mint green.
Mint green.
Mint green.
Wow,
There
that's
it
left
is.
field. Holy
Yes,
moly!
it is. That's cool though.
All right. What color pickguard?
Black.
Okay. Good enough.
I can see that.
None more
Yeah.
black.
Yep.
So hopefully people have taken a moment to go check out your guitars. But if they haven't yet, please go check his stuff out. It's really cool stuff. And we didn't get into all the heavy duty electronic bits, but I'm telling you, this guy puts a ton of thought into the guitars. I spoke with a friend of his who just went crazy trying to explain how thoughtfully made these guitars were and all of the intricacies within. So we've kind of skated around the outside of the ring, but within, lies quite amazing stuff. So,
that's a whole other episode all unto its own.
exactly.
Talking about how this thing works.
Now, will you be? You said you're going to be at NAMM. Will you be showing your guitars?
Absolutely. I'll also be debuting a new model.
Awesome.
And I can't say too much about it, but what I will tell you is think about seeing, now that you guys have seen like the Astro and maybe even if you've seen on the website the Cadet, think about what I would do if I made a Rickenbacker.
Interesting.
Me likey Rickenbacker.
Yeah, Tony is a Rickenbacker fiend.
So yeah, that is what is coming up right now.
That's really cool. Very cool. Well, we look forward to doing that. We also look forward to hearing the golden tones of Jared.
Because, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Would You Rather?
All right.
I liked ours better last time.
Yes.
I don't know how. Okay. This week's Would You Rather, it's very simple, but I think it's a great one. And Tony, it sounded like he came up with this one from the top of his head. It's great. You're gonna have a Les Paul, and it's gonna be an early 70s deluxe. Are you gonna take the Les Paul with the mini humbuckers, which most of them were for years, or would you rather have the P90s in that same Les Paul? Because the route is the same.
All right. Now, for those, let's just explain what an early 70s Les Paul Deluxe, what are the characteristics of that beyond the pickups?
Well, they're pretty heavy. They had a larger headstock.
The Les Paul, they're all heavy.
Yeah, well, these were heavier than the 50s. And
larger headstock.
They're
It's a 3-piece body.
Yep, 3-piece pancake body. The top was a few.
Tell people what a pancake body is.
It's when go ahead.
No, seriously, come on. It's a one layer of mahogany with a veneer of maple in between, another layer of mahogany with then the maple cap on top.
There you go.
Yep, just layers of wood, but
and glue.
In this era, and glue, but this era of this particular model, the top was cut out for either P90 or mini humbuckers, but they mostly used the mini humbuckers, and I'm gonna say because of the hum canceling feature of those pickups.
The bodies were routed for P90s and mini humbuckers mounted in a special modified P90 cover.
Yeah.
That's what got dropped in. Interestingly, some of the late 60s, the very first deluxes that came out actually had what we call goof rings that covered up additional routing, because some of those bodies actually had humbucker routes that were wider. So there's a little maybe quarter inch. Yeah, if you look
that's why we have Tony on the show.
You look up I
didn't know that.
Yeah, or type in goof ring in Google,
right.
or 1968 Gibson Les Paul Deluxe, and there's a little ring that covers up that extra route that goes around the P9. One of the reasons I know is I make them because a lot of people want to replicate that look.
Interesting.
I had a 70 with the goof rings, and I believe they were just tacked on.
There's pins,
just little
4 pins in the
tack
corner.
Them on.
Hey, real quick, because this just came up on our forum. Now, we mentioned, and it was probably me that made the slip, but we were talking about mini humbuckers because I had just put one in my jazz caster thingamabob that I. Well, somebody just name the thing for me. It's called Vinny, but whatever. And I said blah 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 Firebird, and my bad. But explain the difference, if you will. Just take a moment and say, okay. Seemingly, a lot of people would be like, "That's the same thing, is it not?"
It is not. It's structured slightly differently. A Firebird pickup, there is no pull pieces that pop out of the cover, and there are 2 small magnets that actually fit into the 2 very small bobbins. And the mini humbucker has a larger magnet and just one magnet. and it's pretty much just like a normal humbucker. You have a set of poles, and then you have a set of one long slug on the other side.
Interesting. I believe that was Coach Schneider that mentioned that. I could be wrong.
Yeah. Actually, the one I built I believe it is a Firebird pickup.
Nice.
Yep.
I don't know why I said nice. Just because I like weird things. It's fine.
It's cool.
Haha, look what I have. La, 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 la. Okay, anyways, onward with the Would You Rather.
That's right.
Tony.
I think, and this is just, it's just personal preference, but I think I'm going to go back to P90s on it.
Not bad.
The mini hums are good, and a lot of people think that it's closest in tone to a P90, only without the hum in terms of frequency response and that sort of thing. But there's something, I don't know what it is. I think P90s have a little more growl to them. They're noisy, but I guess you just, that's the byproduct of having that type of pickup. But and to me, sometimes it looks a little goofy to have the mini hums on a Les Paul. It just looks out of place to me. So I'm going back to the P90s.
Nice.
All right. Jared.
I am going to go with mini humbuckers, but the hotter mini humbuckers that they were making at that time. The Firebird and mini humbuckers they were making before that were a lot less hot, and they had all nickel magnets. And then actually in the early mid 70s, they used ceramic magnets. They were a lot more thicker sounding. So you get that nice thick humbucker sound and the hum cancel. And I had a set like that, and they sounded really good.
So what would you be giving up as opposed to just going straight humbuckers in? Like what's the trade-off? Why would you do that?
Humbuckers to me sound a little more warm.
Okay.
I guess.
All right.
Yeah.
Good enough.
At,
Plus the guitar is set up to accept P90s.
Well, I'm just, asking.
Yeah.
You're looking at the mini hum versus the full-size humbucker. You're looking at surface area being covered by the magnetic field across the string.
It's wider on a normal humbucker.
Exactly. So if you're narrowing that, then it's more focused.
Gotcha. Brian, what are you doing?
I'm full on going mini humbucker without question. Because to quote my good buddy John Bollinger, more is more. So if you can have two coils, why would you want to have one?
Right on.
Yeah. Because they sound better.
I had a 72 gold top with mini hums in it, and man, that's like one of the having had hundreds of guitars. That's one of the probably top 4 that got away.
Ooh, interesting. So somebody is pretty lucky out there.
Oh my God, yeah.
And
oddly enough, I have one Stratocaster that I called the Penance Strat because it was made out of baseball bat ash. That now 3 owners deep have contacted me later to tell me how heavy the guitar is and how it's the greatest Stratocaster they've ever had. And why did I get rid of it?
Yeah. Interesting.
Oh, man.
Well,
how about you, Todd?
I'm going to
What are
keep
you
this
doing?
simple. I just got a mini humbucker / a Firebird. I got a Firebird mini humbucker. So there, everybody.
There it is.
I'm going that way. I'm gonna go with those. I do love a P90, but I would be interested to see what 2 of those babies would do in a nice big solid body guitar.
And to support your point, they both buck the hum, so you can call them both humbuckers.
Sure. All right. Well, that was super fun, and we learned a lot of things, which is always great. I probably learned the most, so I win.
I learned absolutely nothing.
And that's what's important.
Yeah. So, Brian, where can people find you?
Man, you can find me again, like my website, nutterguitars.com. You can find me on Instagram at Nutter Guitars, Twitter, Facebook, just look for Nutter Guitars as well. Or you can come down here. I'm in Ashland City, Tennessee, just right outside of Nashville.
All right. We'll
Right
be
on.
there in about 5 hours.
Excellent.
See you.
So up and until Summer Dam, anyone that calls me or emails me and mentions that they heard about Nutter Guitars on the Guitar Knobs podcast, I will offer 10% off of the of any guitars that I do.
Wow.
Nice.
That is truly generous. Thank you so much for doing that for our listeners.
Thank you guys for having me on. This has been
absolutely.
so cool.
Yeah, man, that's really cool. I really do appreciate that. It makes me so happy when people do that because, when people listen to the show, we get people that say, "Oh, I'm glad you finally got this person on. I'm a huge fan of this person," or whatever. And you never know what kind of connection you're going to make by simply doing something like that. So that's a very generous and thoughtful offer.
No, thank you. But see, like Sasha, for example, from Dunnable, he and I have a very similar backstory, and I got to meet Sasha at Summer Dam, and we not Summer Dam, but at Winter Dam, and he and I sort of like went back and forth, and we talked about being on Guitar Knobs, and cool. Yeah, you guys are what I listen to whenever I'm doing fret work, so yeah, I'm very familiar with hosted today by
these knobs.
So.
That's rad. Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Tony.
Yes.
You got some people to hook us up.
I do have to thank some people.
Okay.
And we would like to thank people who help sponsor our program.
That's right.
And it's a very easy process. You go over to patreon.com/The Guitar Knobs, and there's various levels you can participate in. And so let's just say I just switched out my mini humbuckers and I put P90s in my guitar, and I've got an extra 5-spot in my wallet.
Mm-hmm.
5-spot doesn't buy you much.
No.
But if you did that, you went over to Patreon and pledged to become a patron at the 5, 10, 20, or even higher. You go over there. You get some great prizes. You get some barefoot buttons, some stickers, some
rewards.
Picks. There are rewards. I like to call them prizes. You call them rewards. One of the things when you become an executive producer level,
well, you get to have your name right on the thing.
in addition to all the great prizes that you get. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to read the names.
Yep, do it.
These are our executive producers.
Yep.
As of today. Let's go back from oldest and dearest to newest.
Okay.
That's right.
Shall we? Tom Barazin.
Oh, man.
Martin Cliff. David Wolfson. Matt Brammer. Carlos Mancha. Pete Marshall. Robin Smith. John Daly. Oliver Gonzalez. Sean S. Chris Kearney. John Anglin. Robert Marfleet. Darren Gregory. Doug Christ. Michael Van Zant. Brad Partridge. Corey Nigro. Ken Sayers, Jonathan Jerusik, Brian Robison, Michael Senchuk, Michael McVeigh, Rick Lenglou, Stefan Lamb, and our newest executive producer,
Ding, 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 ding,
Mr.
ding, ding, ding.
Johnny Knoll.
Yeah.
Johnny!
Right on.
Thank you all very much. When this list gets longer, it gets harder for me to read.
And we like it.
I know what that means. It means that there are people out there who really believe in
the
it.
key's going to still work in the door to the studio.
And the lights turn on when we flip the switch.
That's true.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Tony, where can people find you?
You can go over to pickguardian.com. You can check out some of the projects that we've talked about here a little bit. I've posted things on Instagram quite a bit.
Yep.
Contact me at info@pickguardian.com, or just go to the website, click the link. Let me know what you need.
Yes. Find you on the internet. Great. Go ahead.
How am I going to follow up with that?
Jared.
If you're looking for some cool pickups, go to BrandonWoundPickups.com. Also, you can go find me on Instagram, on Facebook. Go to Brandon Wound Pickup Fans or Brandon Wound Fans. I do some really cool videos on there. I don't really post anywhere else. Some new cool nidbits and tidbits of info that I don't share anywhere.
I like me some nidbits.
Hit me up, man. If you want to find out, go to the group and look.
Is that a new Girl Scout cookie flavor?
Can they find you on the internet?
Yes.
They can.
Yes. All right. You can send me a direct message on Instagram at Guitar Knobs. That's where we're at. You can also shoot me an email, Todd@theguitarknobs.com. Ladies and gentlemen, we are so happy that you hung out with us and listened to our friend here, Brian Nutter, talk about his wares. And we hope that you go check him out and take advantage of that awesome 10%.
Excellent.
Yeah. Handmade everything handmade guitar. Go do it. Go get some. Have a great guitar week and subscribe.
Yeah.
Or yeah.
Domo arigato,
Yeah.
Mr. Roboto.
No, Tony.
Domo.
Nope, Tony. Nope.
Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/The Guitar Knobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.